Well, fuck you too. I'll leave if that's what you're gonna say.
You rode your own canoe up Shit's Creek on a summer day. I make sure your headstone reads Death by Septic Tank. You put a whole new meaning to the term underground, cause I devoured you and pushed you out the end of my anal bag.
Welcome back to Kris Vents. I'm your host, and I'm here with Dom, the disembodied Discord voice. And since last week we talked about the far-right propaganda movie, we can talk about the far-left, sorta, kinda, not really, possibly, may be misconstrued as propaganda movie, Cuck. So, Dom,
I talked about this with you before, some time ago. You were unimpressed with the film. You felt it was underwhelming. You watched it again, and you told me that it was a bit more tolerable the next time around, but not because, presumably, of that you felt you had underestimated its writing or plotting or acting or whatever. But now you're used to it.
had to drink an Angry Orchard just to get down the fact that I actually watched this movie twice, processed in my brain. So this movie came on my radar in late 2019 through Weaponized Nerd Rage, a YouTube channel that I follow, and one of the few people on Twitter I consistently read their posts. So this movie is an attempted character study about a guy named Ronnie, who's a loner, if you will, a very big loser.
A man who subsists in a basement. You might say he dwells in this basement, right?
It's not quite a basement. I mean, it's still a ground level room, but if this house had a basement, it probably would be his throne room.
So a not quite basement dweller.
Only because the house doesn't have a basement.
That's even more pathetic. Okay, good, good.
Yeah. So this is a guy who can't hold a job, can't hold a conversation with women, lives with a very possessive and overbearing mother figure, and I don't know why she's possessive other than she watches a lot of religious TV. I guess there's supposed to be a correlation there. Hell if I know. But he's a very frustrated man. He wants to join the army, but he can't because he has a history of petty crime, and because he, once upon a time, failed the Army's psychological evaluation, which, yeah, they don't just let any Yahoo into the Army. You kind of have to pass the psych eval.
So he wanted to live out his dream of killing terrorists and whatever, but because of his defective upbringing and misguided views, he can't even do that. So this person is a loser in every way. So that's the beginning of this character. And of course, the film shows how he's radicalized and turned to the far right.
Yeah, I guess quote unquote alt-right, which I still have no idea what the fuck that even means. But yeah, he wants to serve in the army because his father was a Gulf War veteran. His father's dead. For the majority of the movie, you don't know why, and you're assuming that he died while overseas in service. He still has his father's fatigues, and he still wears them sometimes because something weird, I guess.
Then it turns out his father was killed by a gay black Jew, thus explaining his allegiance to the alt-right.
That would have made the movie much better.
Oh.
But no, this isn't a fun, cheesy little exploitation movie. No, this is a character study about a man's slow descent into madness, him being radicalized by internet red pill libertarians, one specifically who's like if this guy who calls himself Chance Dalmain, who is like if Gavin McGinnis and Richard Spencer had a baby that somehow had actual testosterone.
All right, so we've got our XB.
Yeah. So that's basically the sum of your movie is this guy trying to he takes to YouTube to vent his frustrations because he can't hold a job, which is his fault, not illegal immigrants' faults, because he can't talk to girls, which is his own fault, not feminists. Although he does live in California, so I can see why he would be somewhat confused.
Are there any actual women in California anyway? Does the I assume I don't know how much you want to spoil it.
I'm good with just laying it all out.
I assume the film ends with him committing a violent crime in some fashion, or at least it gets to that point.
Yes, but we'll get to that momentarily.
All right.
So you pretty much know where this movie is going within the first 5 minutes just from him watching one of Gavin McSpencer's videos. The guy straight up staring into the camera going, "Are you ready to take the red pill, or are you just another cuck?"
Oh, he said it. He said it.
Yeah. So cue the Peter Griffin clip. But, yeah, and did I mention Ronnie is overweight? Because of course he is.
Well, he's either got to be overweight or malnourished to an Arthur Fleck degree. Those are the only two possibilities.
Yeah, the guys like him, they seem to come in two physical fashions, Timon and Pumbaa, and he's not quite Pumbaa, but he's getting there. Sorry, my neighbors are on the balcony and my dog wanted to throw a fit.
That's fine. It's better than our neighbors' dogs who come in and crap all over the lawn until we called the cops recently, and that took care of it.
Yeah, so anyways. Yeah, he's on the borderline of being full Pumbaa. Never go full Pumbaa. And yeah, he to add further insult to injury, like I've heard of pepperoni nipples, but Ronnie's nipples look like an entire pizza.
I think we've delved enough into the why of Ronnie. We need to start expanding on the rest of the movie. The plot is predictable, as in, I think anyone just hearing the title should be able to tell the general structure. How are the actors? Because we saw last week what an independent studio has to work with in terms of getting their own actors. How'd this set of people do?
Well, in this movie's case, they're actually these ones do not act like sub community theater quality acting. Starting with Zachary Ray Sherman, the guy who plays Ronnie, he's actually like he does really show a lot of that frustrated loner who's only finding solace in the internet. Like he's got the creepy like rape stare down perfectly. Like the guy's perfect at portraying a schmuck.
Oh, so he raises the stakes a little. What about the supporting actors?
Well, start with Sally Kirkland, who plays his mother. She's interesting. I'm not saying that in a bad way because a lot of her scenes are her sitting on the couch watching TV, but when she's trying to interact with Ronnie, like oh my god, this woman is kind of there's parts where it's like, yeah, really loving, really caring mothers, like I just want you to be a better man, and then there are times where it's like something is seriously fucked in your brain, lady. I should bring up that this movie gets unfairly compared to a lot of people mistakenly refer to this as a Joker ripoff for a number of reasons. The particular one being that this is a character study about a loner who goes batshit nuts. Another one being that he cares for his ailing mother, and like Joker does have a scene of him bathing her.
But this movie was made, or the movie was not released at a point where they could have possibly ripped off the Joker.
No, they actually shot it in 2018, and it spent a little over a year in post-production, and it just happened to get released on the same day as Joker, so everybody blew it off as this hard left Joker ripoff.
Would a hard left Joker ripoff been better, though?
I think the Joker movie itself was just fine. So then we come to this couple of swingers who are actually fairly pivotal in the movie because Ronnie, okay, context. So Ronnie gets a job at a convenience store run by this Middle Eastern guy and gets fired from that after he kind of instigates a confrontation with some black guys in the parking lot, winds up at his neighbor's house to do some yard work, and turns out his neighbors are swingers, played by Timothy Murphy and Monique Parent, who you fans of 90s point-and-click FMV games will know as the office slut from Phantasmagoria 2.
Wow, I did not expect that game to have any sort of connection to this movie.
Yeah, she's not quite into BDSM in this movie as she is in Phantasmagoria 2, but semi-similar character. They're both extremely sexually active.
That's interesting. We could have had a Phantasmagoria 2 late 2010s politics crossover, and man, that would have ruled.
That would be an interesting game to play, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So they have a thing where they like to shoot, let's just say adult films in their house. And they invite Ronnie to be an active participant in them.
Because an overweight NEET is what everybody wants to see.
So the reason the movie is called Cuck is because his part in the adult films is playing Cuck, playing the loser guy with the banging hot wife, and he's just kind of there to watch her get railed by a guy with a 12-inch long dinglepecker.
Yeah. All right. This makes sense so far. Good plan.
Yeah, so he starts making bank from this, and unfortunately, this is the closest he can actually get to a woman for most of the movie. Because, like I said before, he can't talk to women. He tries initiating a conversation with a random girl on the street. She's got her earbuds in, so he's bothering her. She rightfully tells him to fuck off. And then he just goes,
you don't have to be such a bitch.
Oh, no.
And then he just walks off. He tries going on a date with some girl he meets on Tinder. And they meet at a coffee shop. And he says something that may be misconstrued as sexist. And she just starts dropping feminist jargon on him. And he has a public spurg out, which he has a lot of spurg outs in this entire movie. I should have done a tally of how many, but because that would have been an interesting number to find.
So it's like watching Jerry Springer, but in a slightly different format. Just some loser having a meltdown again and again and again, but it's the same guy.
Not as entertaining as Springer, but fair enough. Yeah. Did I mention that this director wildly overestimates how many times we need to watch Ronnie perform self-maintenance?
Because this director wildly overestimates how many times we need to see Ronnie perform self-maintenance.
I think once would be too much. How many was it?
I counted 11, including the adult films that he makes with the swingers.
Oh.
There's a scene with a montage, so there's a bunch of different shots of them cut together, so I just counted those as different scenes. But I counted at least 11, and in most of them, he can't climax.
Why? What's the purpose of conveying this information?
I guess to further hammer, and I think this is why the movie is an hour and 55 minutes long, because of the repetitive nature of the masturbation scenes. So the only good thing about it is at least they spare us the indignity of seeing his tic tac in frame.
Well, that's the consolation prize at best. So they waste time on that. It sounds unpleasant to watch.
While he is getting this money, he tries getting a hold of a gun. Like, he went to a pawn shop before he met the swingers, and he sees this Desert Eagle for sale in the pawn shop. A pawn shop in California, actually selling guns. There's a laugh. And this movie is set in L.A. Double laugh. This movie gets a few gun things wrong. For starters, the Desert Eagle he's looking at, the store owner says is chambered in .45. I'm a gun guy. Far as I know, there is no model of Desert Eagle that fires a .45 caliber round.
I'm gonna admit that I am not a gun guy, and say there are worse mistakes in terms of forgivableness.
At one point, he buys an unregistered .38 snub-nosed revolver, a little pocket-sized revolver. And when the guy is selling it to him, he's like, "This is unreg." Who the fuck says unreg? You just say it's unregistered. Or you just show that the serial number's been shaved off. So this leads into he's making, in the time he spends either not looking for a job over at the swingers or not watching porn, he starts making a series of vlogs on YouTube, where it's like my videos when I do vlogs. It's just really grainy camera, webcam staring right back at the guy, and he's just raging and letting loose. And it's just him blaming everything from liberals, which he refers to as either libtards or libcucks. That's the first one for me. Blaming illegal immigrants, blaming Muslims, blaming blacks for his own misery instead of the fact that, he's a fucking loser. And after 3 videos, he starts blowing up. Because, that their vlog market in 2019.
Yeah, that sounds like something very poor quality, just some unattractive guy ranting. That sounds like the type of thing that'd get a lot of positive attention.
Yeah, clearly. And I bring up those because at one point he makes a video showing off the gun, which he's on probation, so that would immediately send the police to his house. Why he was never arrested for the gun at any point in the movie is beyond me. Like, you do realize the federal government watches those videos, right?
I mean, the way the Fed, every time there's some mass shooting, you hear something like, "Oh, they knew he was a nutcase, but they didn't take action until it was too late." So actually, that's kind of believable.
Fair enough. I mean, this movie's supposed to be a character study on radicalized mass shooters, people who get radicalized through online hate groups. So there's that. Although the video he's shooting, he completely completely loses any sense of that, of semi-realism by,
This is a 38 Magnum. This will kill a fucking grizzly.
it's like, dude, that's a 38 special. I'm not totally sure if 38 Magnum's a thing.
The only thing that that's gonna do with a grizzly is you're gonna piss it off, and then you're gonna end up like DiCaprio in The Revenant.
Except nowhere near as badass as DiCaprio in The Revenant, though.
Well, so he gets a job in porn. He finds a gun.
Yeah, and then Gavin McSpencer invites him because apparently Gavin McSpencer's been turned on to his attention's been turned to Ronnie's videos. So he's like, "Hey, dude, I'm having this rally. Our president's going to be in Anaheim. I'm going to be at the rally. Come on over." And Ronnie shows up and interviews a few people for his channel and meets with Gavin McSpencer for dinner. That scene was hilarious because the guy just starts casually talking about, we need to have a, like, how far are you willing to go for your country? And then he starts telling Ronnie's like, in no uncertain terms,
dude, we need a fucking race war.
Yeah, and then just casually looks down at his menu and goes, I'm really digging these chili fries. Like it's the most natural thing in the world.
Well, you know, it's hard to write political radicals and come off with believable dialogue.
Yeah, everybody in this movie comes off as a straw man for one argument or another. So, shortly after he meets with Gavin McSpencer, he's riding high on cloud 9. He's the king shit of Turd Mountain. But then, that's when everything starts to go to shit. So,
and we're doing so well before.
Shittier. I mean, he was living in LA, so things are already shitty for him.
True.
So, the problems start when because he doesn't have any money apart from the money he gets from the swingers. He's using his mother's checkbook. Well, he, at one point, goes into the swingers' house and fucks the office slut from Phantasmagoria 2, which I'm going to assume was his first time because he's just...
I think I love you.
Her husband is like, yeah, you're going to have to pay for this, dude. You're going to have to pay me $200 for this. So Ronnie cuts him a check. Well, that check gets flagged by the bank. They call his mother. She calls his probation officer, who has been in this movie at least once, and she was totally hitting on him. The videos he shot with the swingers surface online, which they get show, which somehow they find their way into the attention of his followers and to Gavin McSpencer, who makes a video exposing him as
the Cuck among us.
Oh.
So that triggers a nice little spurg out from him. He smashes his laptop, strangles his mother to death, which there's another thing from Joker. Another thing that they just happen to have. Arthur Fleck smothering his mother to death and Ronnie strangling his mother to death. He then puts on his father's fatigues and some war paint, goes to the swingers' house, kills them, which I love that when he shoots the male swinger, Bill, he, like 4 shots, just barely manages to hit the guy enough to knock him down and keep him on the floor. Then he goes in for the kill shot and he's like,
who's the cuck now?
Because you just had to have a one-liner in there.
Just had to.
So after that, kills the swingers. He then starts going on a shooting spree, except, as was previously shown by his trips to the firing range, this guy can't shoot for shit.
He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from inside the motherfucking barn.
Like, there are people, like, not even 10 yards away, and he can't hit them.
Though they're really hammering in the loser thing. He can't even pull off a mass shooting successfully.
Yeah, So he then goes to the convenience store that he used to work at, shoots the store owner in the arm, but it's just an injury. And the guy's on the floor begging, "Please don't shoot me, don't kill my son." And that somehow triggers like a flashback in Ronnie's mind where it's not overtly stated, but it's implied that Ronnie's father actually shot himself while holding little baby Ronnie years ago. So Ronnie just kind of takes his 38, he leaves the store owner and his kid alone, walks out the door, pulls the gun up, and suicide by cop, because the cops are just hanging out in the parking lot waiting for him.
That's the end of it, I assume.
Yeah, this movie is meant to be like Rob Lambert, the director, I think was aiming for Taxi Driver, and just it's weird because the subject matter is just it feels like the kind of movie you would expect to see a 21-year-old film student to make while telling themselves,
I am so provocative.
like it feels like that for so much of the runtime. Like
Wow.
I don't think this movie was made out of any like political whatever. I think Rob Lambert wanted to make a character study movie. I think he just wanted to make his version of Taxi Driver. The problem is that because this movie is not afraid to just fire off so many buzzwords that it comes off as like, who is this movie for? Because people on the left are just going to be like, what? It's not going to work for people on the left, and people on the right are going to see it and look at Ronnie and every white male in this movie as a straw man as a really bad straw man for their arguments.
So the plot wasn't very good. The acting seems like it was serviceable.
It was really like it was better than this movie deserves. I will
But
say
the writing
that
was
much.
also crap.
Just to tell you how much this movie wants to be Taxi Driver, they recreate the whole "you talking to me" scene from Taxi Driver, except nowhere near it, except completely without Robert De Niro's charm and charisma.
This seems worse than the last one just because of the masturbation scenes.
Again, the only consolation for the frequency of those scenes is that you don't have to see Ronnie's little tic tac. I'm sure if this director could, he would have given Ronnie a micro penis. But yeah, that's basically Cuck. It's a character study without an audience.
Or a character, really.
Yeah. And it actually this movie also had some really good, like, I'm guessing the budget on this was probably less than 2 million, maybe less than 1 million. I can't find an exact budgetary figure anywhere, but
I couldn't find their box office returns.
I've heard that it made zero at the box office. I don't know how true that is. It has like some really solid, like I'll give the director Lambert this much credit. He has a good visual eye. Like he is really good with his shot compositions. Like the way this movie's shot, it at least feels like a movie. It's not like The Insurrection where it felt like Rene Perez just placed the camera, hit record, and then there's your movie. No, there's actual thought put into some of the framing in this movie.
Can you think of anyone then who would want to see it, or who you would recommend it for?
I would, at a bare minimum, I would recommend it for film students who want to see a good example of how you can frame a shot without a whole hell of a lot of money. But in terms of subject matter, in terms of writing, like, and in terms of narrative and plot, I would not recommend. I would give this, if you're looking for how to write a narrative driven movie or a character based movie, like I would give this 0 Murray Franklins out of 5.
Oh. Well,
but in terms of framing and shot composition on a limited budget, that it could be worth looking into for that alone. But if you want a movie, if you want a movie as a character study movie, just watch Joker or Taxi Driver.
Yeah, that seems like what you'd have to do.
So that is going to do it for this edition of Kris Vents. And we will see you guys in the next video.
Will the real wind up church please stand up? You about as useless as a priest made truck. Next time you pop off, I won't even have to duck. Cause what's a little red rider to an icicle, bruh? Yeah, I seen your boyfriend defending you up in this video. He looks like he a